Pulp Fiction. For 30 years now, Pulp Fiction was released and became a cult classic, with many claiming it Quentin Tarantino's magnum opus. And it was only 20 years ago that I watched Pulp Fiction for the first time, waking up one weekend in the morning with everyone asleep and seeing what's up on TV. When I first opened it, I thought Vincent was Val Kilmer, and being a huge fan of Batman Forever, I thought, hey, let me watch it. And for a 7-year-old at that time, it was weird to see a film without background music all the time, and they don't focus on one character every single scene. The Gimp scene was deleted at that time, so I was good. And it only took me a decade later to learn the name of the film and that Tarantino directed it after watching Django Unchained and Inglourious Basterds. It's as if I was destined to watch cult classics like this one, and destined to be a fan of Quentin Tarantino. And I thought the nice way to get into it is with Ezekiel 25:17.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
The dialogue in this film seems natural, as if you're talking to them in real life, whether a boxer, bunch of gangsters, a kingpin, or drug dealers. You got hitmen talking about burgers, Amsterdam, and foot massages. The talk between Mia and Vincent is all about the pilot, Marcellus, and some awkward silence. No affection, no dramatic takes or music, no crazy visual effects. Some drug overdose happened, but things went back to normal. Tim Roth and Honey Bunny talk about robbing a restaurant on a normal day at the exact restaurant they're about to rob, with no plans whatsoever. And Christopher Walken gave us a story on how one guy kept a watch 5 years up his ass. Casual and everyday conversation. In Reservoir Dogs, the opening was about Madonna's song Like a Virgin. That's why I enjoy these dialogues in his movies. They're about what you could talk about with other people. Movies, religion, meaning of life, who would give better massages. He made Bible talks with Jules interesting to listen to, even to non-religious people. Quentin's everyday life feels that way, and the dialogue feels you're part of it, and he puts that on the script. One classic recipe of Quentin Tarantino's how to make a movie. The music is his second recipe. You see, Quentin goes to his music record collection, plays some songs, and finds the ones that fits the vibe of his story. When he did Kill Bill Volume 1, some of the songs were chosen when he was out with his friends or at a store. Even the band 5678, Quentin found out about them when played at a store prior to his flight, and he bought the disc from them. He chooses 95% of the soundtrack in his movies. Even if you're not a fan of this film, when you're at a place or watching videos and reels, 2 tracks were specifically remembered as the Pulp Fiction songs. The iconic Surfrider piece in the intro, and you got the infamous C'est la vie, says the old folks. One listens to it and easily remembers the scene. I watched The Big Bang Theory the other day, and the song was played in one episode with Leonard pulling the Vincent twist, although it was so bad. And the last piece of his recipe, his trademarks. Whether it's the Big Kahuna burgers, Red Apple cigarettes, saying goodbye to huevos, or feet, all became Quentin's trademark in the film. And we see some of them in all of his movies, even his coffee talks. The dialogue of Vincent and Jules talking to Jimmy about his gourmet coffee and enjoying it is parallel to The Hateful Eight, with Minnie's coffee at the haberdashery call it as the best coffee in the world. And it's also parallel to Reservoir Dogs, when the opening was at a diner, everyone's drinking their coffee. And you know how it is. I don't know if many talked about this, but Pulp Fiction shows the idea of getting a second chance in life, for some characters leaving the life of crime and the bad life. Once you're spared from one shot that ends your life, what would you do with it? Jules could have been dead in the scene of Burgers and Bible, but the guy who emerged from the bathroom missed all of his shots. When that happened, Jules thought that this was a sign from God that he should retire from the life of crime. Vincent was bothered by it. and got back to the conversation having breakfast and the robbery took place. He could have shot Tim Roth in the story. Instead, he lectured him about the meaning of Ezekiel 25:17 after reciting it. Jules, prior to the scene, was a tyranny of evil, but after choosing to leave it all, he said he's trying really hard to be the shepherd. He let him go with Honey Bunny before leaving with Vincent and dropping off the briefcase to Marcellus Wallace as his last job. Mia could have been dead from drug overdose, but Vince saved her, and she continued with her life as if nothing happened. But we don't know if she continued to do drugs or just stopped after almost losing her life. Vince would have done the same, but like his brother Mr. Blonde from Reservoir Dogs, he loved his life of crime, and you know how that went. Butch could have done the job Marcellus demanded by losing the fight after taking the money that they agreed on, and lived a good life with Fabian. But his conscience prevailed from selling his self-respect to Marcellus, where he manipulated it with pride. Butch is a fighter and fighters fight, and continuing to fight meant something to him. Butch should have been taken out by Marcellus for sabotaging their deal and tried to run away from him. In the Gimp scene, he managed to escape from torture and would have fled the place, but he saved Marcellus from getting medieval up his ass by some goons with a Gimp, and was spared by him as long as Butch never comes back to LA. Now with Marcellus, he symbolizes a life of hell, especially at his bar with red lights. And what about the briefcase at the beginning of the movie? Not because of the gold light, but the lock's pass is 666. We don't see much about Marcellus, but by the dialogue, we know what he's capable of, especially when things don't go his own way or when he hates something. We know Marcellus won't change his way of life, especially after everything happened with him, but he stopped messing with his pride, which he was full of in the first place. Pride was messing with him. Fun fact, there's a big movie theory with the briefcase with the gold light as Marcellus' soul being sold. The first time we see Marcellus Wallace, he has a band-aid on the back of his head, and it's assumed that his soul was taken out there because that's where it can be taken by the devil and put in the briefcase. Hence to unlock with the numbers of the beast 666. That was not the case for Tarantino and Roger Avery when they wrote the story. The briefcase was supposed to be filled with diamonds, but it was too cliche. And having the scene with the gold light was a perfect fit for us to draw our own conclusion. As for Marcellus Wallace and the band-aid, the actor had a scarf from shaving his head. Now back to the talks. But if we go back with Vincent in the film, he got killed by Butch and that was it. But as we watch it in a non-chronological narrative, we got another chance to see Vincent with Jules as this awesome duo until the end of the film. Every time Vincent goes to the bathroom, something bad happens or something unexpected. At Mia's place, he went to the bathroom and saw him practicing what he wants to say to Mia. What happened? She overdosed on heroin. At the diner, he went to the washroom and the robbery took place with Tim Roth and Honey Bunny. Also, at Butch's place, he got shot and killed in the bathroom. Vincent being at the washroom at times has to do with his heroin abuse leading to constipation, especially at the diner and Butch's house. That tiny level of attention Quentin put for the character had to be visited. Looking at Vincent's addiction with drugs that almost cost Mia's life and led to his own life down the toilet. Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs are in the same universe with the Vega brothers, Vic and Vincent. Both shot to death and had good dancing skills. Quentin wants to make a movie about the brothers that is set before the timeline of Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, with Travolta and Madsen as Vincent and Vic Vega respectively. But their age prevailed and stopped that idea. Personally, I would have seen the story as an animated film. Quentin would have had fun in making it, and all he needed from the characters were their voices, although Madsen's voice aged horribly, and we can't deny that. And Quentin would have had fun with the animated violence like he did in Kill Bill Volume 1, with Oren Ishii's story. To me, the story itself is not the best. It's everything around it that made it worth watching. The Boogie Servant soundtrack, the dialogue with the characters, and the nonlinear storytelling. Aside from Butch and Jules, the story has no resolution for the characters. All characters have their own stories and we follow them. Yet Quentin made it a cult classic and led him to winning Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. Vincent Vega revived John Travolta's career after multiple box office flops, even accepting a lower budget for Pulp Fiction, and that still earned him a nomination for Best Actor in a Leading Role. And then later he starred in Face Off in 1997 with Nicolas Cage, a great film with those two. Samuel L. Jackson got his first Oscar nomination for the Best Supporting Actor as Jules, and the first of many collaborations with Quentin after Pulp Fiction. The role of Jules was specifically for Samuel L. Jackson after he saw his audition for the Reservoir Dogs, and then wanted him for his next project after not getting the role. Even the character of the wolf was written specifically for Harvey Keitel, who was also the one who convinced Bruce Willis to take the role of Butch as he enjoyed watching Reservoir Dogs. With Tim Roth, he was in the opening and the ending of the film like in Reservoir Dogs, even though his character is not iconic like Mr. Orange or Oswaldo Mowbray. As for Uma Thurman, she became Quentin's muse during the making of the film, and before finishing it, he talked to her about their next movie, and that was Kill Bill, and the rest was history. That history would not have been in everyone's favor if Pulp Fiction was not made. It's not the best Quentin Tarantino movie when you have Django Unchained, Inglourious Bastards, or even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but easily top 5. Also, Pulp Fiction has easily the best of soundtracks, whether it's the Surfin' Cowabunga vibe, Son of a Preacher Man, or even Jungle Boogie. The more you watch it, the more you realize it's best to keep the story in a non-chronological order. Because when you do, the story itself is not the best. Think about it. Jules and Vincent did what they did in the first act, killing Brett and a bunch of guys for disrespecting Marcellus Wallace and retrieving what belonged to him, the briefcase. One guy emerged from the bathroom and shot nonstop, but it was a miracle that the hitmen survived and then later shot the guy. They kidnapped Marvin, and on the road, Vincent accidentally shot Marvin and painted inside the car red. They had to hide the car at Jimmy's place to find a way to clean up the mess, but they also had to leave the place before Jimmy's wife Bonnie comes home. That's when Marcellus sent the wolf to the scene and cleaned up the mess, cleaning the car, disposing of the body, removing their bloody clothes, and then destroying the car in the junkyard. That done, they are having breakfast, and Jules told Vince he's retiring from the life of crime. Robbery took place with Honey Bunny and Tim Roth until Jules brought hell when Tim Roth tried to put a gun on his head and took his wallet. Jules calmed everyone down, got his wallet back, spared Tim and Honey Bunny after reciting Ezekiel 25:17. They left the scene and went to Marcellus to give him the briefcase. And right there, Jules left the crime scene. Vincent went to take Mia out for dinner after taking some heroin prior. Some steak and burger, $5 shake, and some twists. Some chemistry here and there, and Mia got overdosed with Vince's heroin, mistaken for cocaine. Vince revived her with adrenaline, and both vowed to never speak about what happened. Butch was the final act of the linear narrative. You see, he got paid by Marcellus to lose the fight, but he double-crossed him because he remembered his father's golden watch and story. He also killed his opponent, forcing himself to flee with his girlfriend Fabian. The next day he had to go to his place and bring the gold watch because Fabian forgot to pack it. When he got into his place and got it, he found a gun and realized he was targeted by Marcellus. It was Vincent, so he shot Vincent cold and left the scene. Out of all the places, Marcellus spotted Butch at the traffic light while getting donuts. So hell broke loose and found themselves at a pawn shop. And then Maynard and Zed captured them and put them in the basement for their own amusement, even bringing out the gimp. So they took Marcellus to be medieval. Butch was able to escape, but he saved Marcellus and killed Maynard with a katana. And Marcellus shot Zed in his huevos. Despite everything that happened, Marcellus and Butch are good. What happened with them stayed with them, and Butch left LA with Fabian to ride off into the sunset. So yeah, not the best story. So that was Pulp Fiction, with Samuel L. Jackson, John Travolta, Uma Thurman, Bruce Lee, Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, The Briefcase, and Christopher Walken with a golden watch. It's been 30 years since its release, and I still haven't had a Big Kahuna burger. But like Vincent, I learned something from the movie. I learned some French. You know what they say in coffee in French? Café. We good? Yeah, we good. And on that note, thanks for tuning in to the place of breakdown, analysis, and film talks, which is Films Unchained podcast. After a very long time, I know. But anyways, take care and let's go.